What's the significance of making and working with your hands to you?
I feel like that's a loaded question for me. It's so many things, and I think the more time I spend working and making furniture, the more it builds reasons in for me. I think the main one is legacy, just of my own. I get to build things that last longer than I will. Legacy in the way of living my dreams through craft, and my family, my children getting to see that it doesn't have to happen at 18 or at 25 or at 30, that you can find your thing and still dream and follow that and express yourself at any point in your life. And I think that's a powerful thing to do because it shows resiliency. So I get to make and show that through that. I think legacy in the way that history works, and people might find my piece at some point, or even other people's pieces, and say, wow, this is from that certain time period and this is where the trend was, or this is why this was popular. And I think that's really pretty cool. I'm Ashley Pieper, Shallow Creek Woodcraft, and I live in York County, PA. I like living here because there's a lot of history, there's a lot of involvement in preserving that. Gettysburg is pretty close, and so there's Civil War history, little plaques on the old houses that say if the house was there during the Civil War. A lot of old architecture from long ago, and there's just a nice working sense of community from the school level up through other community events, and people are nice. Just enjoy the area. Well, I grew up in Beacon, New York. It's right on the Hudson River. Beautiful place. It's much different now than it was when I was growing up. Now there's Art Dia there and a whole lot of art influence in antique stores and cool little coffee shops. But when I was growing up there, it was the remnants of a factory town. So there was buildings that were boarded up and areas that just were in this transitional time not being used. But it was a cool place to grow up. I ran track, very into sports. I ran competitively all year round. My dad was a mechanic when I was a kid, and then worked still in automotive field. So I grew up with that background, and my mom was a metal artist. So we kind of grew up adjacent to making and doing, and my dad was always the kind of person to figure it out and build and just want to do it right. And I think that sense of being able to do things yourself just was instilled in my brother and I growing up. So I never took pause when it came to trying to figure something out. I'm like, oh, okay, that's really neat. How did that go together? Or why did it work that way? And so I think that I had that approach where I just wanted to do it myself. Because I'm like, oh, at least I'll try. And if I can't figure it out, that's when I can ask somebody else or call somebody else to do it. And so even though I really wasn't making, it was like art more or less, little dabbling. I'd paint or I'd make something small, but I never took it very seriously at that point, through my teen years. I guess I just didn't see it, maybe that was also my raising, see it as a viable avenue to a career. After high school, I moved quite a few times, so I worked in the automotive field for a few years before I met my husband at auction school. And he was there for cattle stuff, and I was there for cars, and it kind of changed my life unexpectedly, and did some more moving from there, and had a family, and was kind of making in between those things, but still never taking it as seriously as I did after kids got a little bit bigger and I was getting more and more invested into it. I feel like it's a heavy part-time is what I like to say, because farm and kids come first for me. So I think that's part of the benefit of my shop being at my own home, that I have some ebb and flow to my schedule for my day. But usually it's farm chores if my husband's not home, because I'll do those when he's not here. Mostly it's getting the kids off to school, and then I come down to the shop and I'll spend pretty much my whole day down here until it's about time for them to be getting home from school and eating snacks and dinner and pick up from sports and all those kinds of things. So a heavy part-time. My shop is part of the house. It's about a 4-car garage in size. and I'm really lucky to have gotten it, because when we were first looking for properties, I really didn't have the idea of what I wanted at that point. Then I slowly just started expanding and taking over, and now I've taken over the whole space and kicked everybody else out. Well, I guess we could go back to a time my dad would rather I didn't bring up, but I was painting a mural on the wall in my bedroom. It was like this angsty teenager in there with, like, you know, my band posters and my big jeans, and I was like painting on my wall. And I think my dad died a little bit that day when he walked in and saw, and he's like, how do I paint over this? I'm like, it's wonderful. You don't need to paint over this art. So I think I've always been an expressive and creative person, and I've always enjoyed making in any capacity. I think I'm curious by nature, and so if somebody's making something with metal, I'm like, ooh, what's that? How does it go? What does it do? And I think my mom she cross-stitched and sewed, and also was a metal artist, so I would see some of that from her job if I got to go. So I think I just had that interest. It was just part of life to be able to express and make and do. And it was a relief back then too. It was a hobby that gave me a break from life in general, other things. And I just kind of kept doing it and finding different things. And when I got to furniture, it was just something about it clicked for me. I just felt like, wow, this is really interesting. This is my thing. And it had so many different levels that pulled my interest in, not like anything else I had really dabbled with. And it just kind of felt natural. And I kind of pursued it from there. Well, I started by wanting to find pieces that had more character. When it was the restoration thing, it was more of a budget thing at first. And so I started looking within that budget range and finding pieces, and I started noticing difference in scrutinizing them for just picking. And when I started realizing, oh, there's dovetails at the corners of this. Why does that survive better? Why does that look better to me? I just deep dived from there, like rabbit hole of questions and trying to find answers. And it just hooked me. Like, oh, this is from this period of time. And I don't know, something about it fascinated me. I think there's legacy in building, and I think there's a story to where those pieces come from, why they were built the way they were, and different areas built a certain way, different materials come from specific areas. And I just see it as trajectory of humans, their investment in what's happening around them, and it marks even the small things that happen. So mahogany coming here, why mahogany? Why cherry was special in certain places? Why Philadelphia has a certain style chair? I just think those things are interesting. And so the more information that I found, it just gave me another excuse to ask more questions and get more invested. I feel like the setup and problem solving is majority of the process. I think the building is just the end result of figuring it out. My goals, I think I want to continue to find challenges. Like I was saying before, I really enjoy that part of it. But I think my main goal is just to really put quality out there. I want what leaves here to be something that somebody really enjoys in their home. I want it to be something that someone would want to pass on in their family, and is something that has memories stuck to it. So I feel like when memories are laced in a piece, like this table was in my grandma's home, like it needs to hold time with it, and I think that would be very cool. And of course, I'd love to have pieces that if they sat next to a peer's, you would say, wow, that's really, really great. You know, she really worked at those details. And that to me would be like a nice pat on the back, you know, holding my own amongst peers and people really loving what they have in their home, so it lasts. Eventually it becomes a piece of furniture. Usually they're private commissions, most of my work. It's been word of mouth. I haven't been the best about putting myself out there yet, mostly because of my class. The last 2 years has mostly been class work because it's a lot more demand, and I'm designing my own pieces, and I'm looking at that as a portfolio builder, hopefully pieces that I can build again for other people, even if there's adaptions to it. I would be really excited to do that. So I think most of it's been class work in the last 2 years with small commissions peppered in, but just word of mouth for now until this summer when I'm done with class, and then I'll be like, hey guys, how are you doing? Friendly neighborhood furniture maker. This is an end table. It's one of two that I built for class, designed and built as my critique pieces. They're ash and walnut. And I was really excited about these tables because I've had this idea for the legs in my brain for a while, and getting that out felt really great. The legs took 6 jigs, so it felt like such a win to actually have a table leg come from all of that time and work. I think I still want to figure out how to make the party from the bottom of the table match for the top and not be so bland, but it's great to have iterations and explore design in this way. It's a 2-year program. It's an online mastery program with Gary Rogowski, Northwest Woodworking Studio. I landed in that because I needed flexibility. I don't have the ability to go to an intensive somewhere where I would be gone for months. Usually they're a lot more time away than I could manage. So when I saw the opportunity for the online mastery, I thought that's a way that I can borrow that time. I can work in the shop at my own pace and still be present for home. It's taken some sacrifices from my family, which I very much appreciate, but in general, it gave me flexibility. So it's been a great push for me. It's made me look at things differently and giving me some other techniques that I didn't have and skills, and I'm really grateful to be able to participate in that to further myself and my goals for making. Yeah, I think prioritizing your time and where you want to be can be really difficult. So I think when you want more time, you just have to find a way to borrow, like a borrow balance is the way I think of it, because there's always going to be things that happen in your day-to-day life that might need something one day, but maybe the next they don't. So that's when you take advantage of that and try to spend that time in the shop, or have realistic goals for yourself, knowing like, this is a more fragmented process for me. I can only be in here maybe Monday night and Thursday night, and that's good enough. You know, you're still out there, you're still doing it. And I think that's powerful. I mean, life is busy, there's a lot going on, and you want to enjoy what you're doing. So borrowing that time when you can, and not having like really rigid expectations on yourself of how long you really get to be out there, or measuring that against other people, really helps. My husband and my kids are proud of me, and they're flexible. They've kind of grown along with me as I've grown in my own shop. As I've spent more time down here, or I needed different things, they've been very good about affording me that time when I need it, or understanding when I have a deadline, taking interest in what I'm doing. My husband's very patient with how much I talk about tools and wood-related things. Yeah, he's good with that. The maker community is amazing. When I first started on Instagram, it was mostly as a personal diary of sorts, like just a way for me to get out all this stuff I had in my own head. And I didn't really expect anybody to follow me. Like, I had no intentions on it whatsoever. And then I started finding more furniture makers, and people were so reciprocal and kind. And I just found it very uplifting. I thought it was awesome to talk to people who had the same interests and could relate to struggles in growing. And I just really enjoy the diversity of it too, like all kinds of different people of every kind, space, make, shape, and it was fantastic. It was just a good creative energy, and I love people and I love what they're doing, and I'm genuinely interested in what's happening in somebody else's shop and what they want to talk about. And I find value in that for lots of reasons, but mostly I just want to be that person that like pumps people up, makes them excited about what they're doing, and it comes from a good place. I don't even have to know you very well, and I'm pretty excited for you. So I just think that being that person that puts out that good energy makes a difference for people, and I think it sometimes breaks how they see themselves and gives them an opportunity to realize like that they're out there, they're doing it, and there's other people who see that. It's nice to be seen. really fully invested probably close to 4 years now. But really making, I honestly think it's probably been closer to 10 to 12 conservatively years since I started kind of doing some repurposing and stuff, but really building my own furniture close to about 4 years. I think that I use craft as a vessel to work on myself. It kind of started out that way, and even though it's become a business, I think that I still lean into that hard. Like in the time that I'm quiet in my shop, and the time that I get to work on something, I can push myself to be challenged and learn and fail and continue to break down different parts of myself that I wish weren't there sometimes, or make certain things better, like just reflective, I think, and I enjoy that process. Breaking perfectionist tendencies, that it doesn't have to be perfect, that disengaging sometimes from things just a little bit makes you more objective, and you can really look at it and see something for all the effort and beauty you put into it, and that the little bits and pieces of hand touched are worth that character, not that perfection. And that with time, your work will kind of become what you would assume to be perfect, and that's good enough.
And what inspires you?
Oh, so many things. There's a little bit of an ADD question there. So many things. I think nature, other people, bodies, wow, lots and lots of things. I think day to day it changes at times. So whatever the focus is grabbed by at the moment. Hopefully I'm making like 4 of my own pieces a year that are designed, and I can build other things in between. Just sustainable business that I can be down here making, doing my own thing, supporting all of it independently. That's my main goal. It probably sounds simple to some, but to me that would be enough. Just being able to do what I enjoy doing and get to make some of my own work. Pretty awesome. I think more so as I've learned that when I get through a challenge, any frustrations or things like roadblocks that I hit, if I get through those and I have figured it out, it is such a great sense of accomplishment. It's a strong feeling to sit back and look at that and be like, so a human can sit on this and they're not gonna die. Like, that is awesome. The small things for me are big things. So yeah, just being able to see something that came out of my brain be in reality is awesome. I don't know, I just like being down here. It's just like my space, my bubble that I've carved out, separate from being a mom, separate from any other needs. Like, this is my thing. And it just feels like my place, something that I hadn't really had previously in life. Like, I was kind of this wandering soul in some aspects where I just didn't feel like I fit in too many places. And when I'm in my own space and doing my own thing, I just feel like I fit. And I don't even know what all the reasoning is to that, but it's just a nice feeling to have.